I don't usually talk about what happened 15 years ago. In fact, I try not to even think about it. On January 7th, 2008, Emily Carter, a cherished member of our neighborhood, left her house to run a quick errand and never came back. Back then, it was a massive case. Everyone seemed obsessed with finding out what had happened to her. But no one wanted answers more than I did. Emily and I had been married for 5 years. From the moment we met, I knew she was the person I wanted to grow old with. Her smile could brighten any room. It was the kind of smile that made people stop and look. That's why it was nearly impossible to accept that such a radiant, successful woman could vanish just like that. Her body was never found. Even after all these years, there's still not a single piece of concrete evidence. No tire tracks, no fingerprints. Nothing. The police made public appeals, but not one witness came forward. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. Emily crosses my mind often. I've never been able to take down the photos of her from the house. Her beaming face still watches me from every corner. There's one particular picture from our wedding day that always gets me. Captured her perfectly, like she was still alive in that moment. Just 2 days ago, I found myself staring at that photo, completely absorbed by it. The way her eyes lit up, the slight curve of her lips, the tiny dimple on her left cheek. I was so lost in the image, I almost didn't hear the phone ringing. It was the landline. Strange, no one ever uses it anymore, not in this age of cell phones. When I glanced at the caller ID, it was an unknown number. I figured it was just some bank needing to confirm something and answered it without thinking much. There was a pause before the call connected, and then a soft, crackling sound came through the line. "Hello?" I asked, already annoyed. "Is anyone there? Hello? Mark? Mark, thank God. I finally reached you." The voice was female, breathless, trembling. "Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there?" For a moment, my heart stopped. Emily. My Emily. But that was impossible. Emily had been gone for 15 years. Whoever this was, she wasn't my wife. "I don't know what sick game you're playing," I said coldly. "But you're not Emily. Don't call here again." I had gotten plenty of these calls over the years. Scammers, con artists, people preying on a grieving husband. I'd learned how to spot a fake, and this was no different. "No, Mark, please." The woman's voice turned desperate. "It's really me. Emily, you have to believe me." Her tone climbed into hysteria. I was stunned by the lengths people would go to in order to keep a lie alive. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, anger rising in my voice. "It's been 15 years. What do you want from me?" She went quiet for a moment, and I thought the call had dropped. Then she spoke again. "Mark, please. I swear it's me. It's your wife. It's Emily," she pleaded. But I'd heard enough. I wasn't going to let some stranger drag me back into a nightmare. "This is the last time you'll hear my voice," I said, and hung up. I assumed that would be the end of it. The following day, I had invited a friend over to help fix a plumbing issue. We'd known each other since college, and he had stood by me through the worst of times, even when Emily went missing. During a break, as we were chatting and catching up, the landline rang again. "Sorry, let me grab this real quick," I said, standing up. Another unknown number, just like before. I didn't connect the dots right away. Could have easily been a routine call. But when I answered, the same faint rustling reached my ears. It unsettled me in a way I couldn't explain. Something about it felt familiar, though I couldn't place why. "Hello," I said sharply. I already had a strong suspicion what this was. "I told you not to call here again." "Mark? Mark, thank God. I finally reached you." Same exact words. Same voice. "Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there?" I clenched my jaw. I don't have time for this, I snapped. I know you're not Emily. Leave me alone. I ended the call and returned to my friend, who looked concerned. Who was that? He asked. I heard you say Emily's name. Is everything okay? Just some psycho prank caller pretending to be her? I muttered, rolling my eyes. I thought I was done with this. I even changed my number. I don't know how they got it. Pretending to be Emily? He repeated, puzzled. That's really weird. Did you report it? No, I replied, shaking my head. No point. They're just trying to stir up drama. Probably want money. I ended the conversation there. I didn't want to relive all of it again. The next morning, I didn't expect another call. I thought I'd made myself perfectly clear, but I was wrong. As I came downstairs to get a glass of water, the phone rang again. I almost let it ring, but then I decided I'd give this person a final, firmer warning. Maybe even threaten legal action. I picked up. That same eerie static whispered through the receiver. Chilled me to the bone, though I couldn't explain why. Then the voice came. Mark? Mark, thank God. I finally reached you. Again. Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there? If you don't stop harassing me, I'll report you to the police. I barked into the phone. This is harassment. If you're trying to scam me, find someone else. I didn't even wait for her reply. I slammed the phone down, sure that would be the last time. I felt so confident that when a loud, piercing ring woke me early the next morning, I didn't immediately associate it with those calls. First, I assumed it was my alarm, but the clock hadn't gone off yet. That's when I realized it was the landline. I rushed downstairs, ready to confront whoever was behind this. I wanted to scare them off for good, maybe even catch them if I could. As I picked up the phone, the rustling sound returned. Familiar, creepy. My pulse quickened as the line connected. Mark? Mark, thank God. I finally reached you. The same panicked tone. Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there? I warned you, I said loudly. I told you I'd take legal action. You've gone too far now. Mark, no. Please, it's me, she begged. I'm not lying. I would never lie to you. Mark, I'm your wife. It's really me. You're not Emily, I growled. I know you're not. I'm contacting the authorities. I hung up and placed the receiver down with a finality. I know that voice didn't belong to Emily. I know because on January 7th, 2008, Emily Carter, beloved by so many, was murdered. And I was the one who killed her. Emily was stunning. I couldn't believe she'd ever be interested in someone like me. I had no experience with women, and yet someone as radiant as her had chosen me. I loved her. Every single second of our marriage, I loved her. Even when I discovered she was cheating, I hadn't meant to find the messages, romantic, emotional texts between her and a colleague. She was planning to leave me for him. Emily, my Emily, was going to leave me. Couldn't allow that. She was everything to me. Beautiful, lively, and full of charm. Couldn't let her go. So I killed her. I didn't even think twice. It was the only way to ensure she'd always be mine. If she was gone, no one could take her from me. She'd stay with me forever. When the police came, I lied. Said she had gone out and never returned. That lie made national headlines. I didn't know if I'd get away with it. But then 1 year passed, and then another, until 15 years had gone by, and no one ever uncovered the truth. I was heading back upstairs when I heard a faint tapping at the window. Tap, tap. Then the soft creak of it sliding open. And then the rustling. Not through the phone this time. It was coming from inside my house. That sound, paralyzing and all too familiar. Then I heard her voice. Mark? Mark, thank God. I finally reached you. She was inside now. Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there? I could hear her voice more clearly now. Mark? Mark, thank God I finally reached you. And this time, it was definitely coming from inside the house. Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there? A wave of panic surged through my chest. I never believed in ghosts or anything supernatural, but this felt like something far more terrifying than a scam or a prank. My thoughts spiraled out of control. Part of me wanted to stay, frozen, morbidly curious. The other part was screaming at me to bolt through the front door and never look back. The rustling was deafening now, clouding out every ounce of logic I had left. Mark? Mark, thank God I finally reached you. The voice was sharper this time, slicing through my fear. Mark, it's me. It's Emily. Are you there? It was close, way too close. I could tell the voice wasn't far. Just a few feet away, maybe less. Hello, I called out, my voice cracking as I heard faint, cautious footsteps. Is someone there? Hello? But I couldn't move. My legs refused. It was like fear had rooted me in place. Whatever was happening, I couldn't make sense of it, and I sure as hell wasn't going to walk toward it. Then suddenly, as if someone hit a switch, the noise vanished. The rustling stopped mid-motion, like it had been vacuumed right out of the air. The footsteps silenced too. After a long moment of nothing, the voice disappeared as well. Still shaking, I slowly descended the stairs, hands trembling with every step. What the hell just happened? Was I losing my mind after all these years? I rushed over to the phone and yanked the cord from the wall. I didn't care if it was a scammer. I couldn't let them dig into my head any further. I didn't leave the house that day. Fear had its claws in me. I paced, I sat, I stared at walls, trying to make sense of something that defied logic. The next morning, something felt off, tangibly different, and it wasn't just in my head. I wasn't much of a reader, but I had a small bookshelf in my bedroom with maybe 5 or 6 books. When I looked over, it seemed emptier than I remembered. Had something gone missing? Or was I imagining it? I pushed the thought away and headed downstairs for a glass of water. My brain was clearly in overdrive. Paranoia, stress, whatever it was, I needed to calm down. I opened the drawer to grab a butter knife for my toast when I noticed something strange. An empty slot in the knife rack. Every knife was in place except one. My stomach turned. Knives don't just disappear. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, the cell, not the landline, and quickly dialed my best friend. Adam. Adam, I whispered into the phone. Something's happening. I think I'm losing it. Please, I need you to come over. Adam didn't hesitate. He said he'd be there right away. When he arrived, I let him in, trying my best to keep it together. He looked at me, clearly concerned. Mark, what's going on? He asked. You sounded freaked out on the phone. I think I'm losing my mind, I admitted as we sat down. I've been seeing things, noticing things out of place. I think it's connected to Emily. Losing your wife takes a toll, Adam nodded. Of course, he had no idea what really happened to her. Adam had his own scars. 10 years ago, his wife, Lauren, had gone missing in a similar fashion. She left for work one day and never came back. It's been 15 years, I murmured, eyes wide. Why is it hitting me now? Adam leaned forward. It hit me a year after Lauren disappeared. I spiraled. Paranoia, depression. It took me years of therapy to start healing. I nodded, pretending to relate. But therapy wouldn't fix me. Nothing would. I smiled and listened to the rest of Adam's advice. When he eventually left, I told him I'd try some of his coping mechanisms. I had no intention of doing any of it. That night, I tossed and turned, trapped in my thoughts. The voice, the missing items, the phone calls. It was all too much. Couldn't sleep. Eventually, I got up and stumbled toward the medicine cabinet, searching for some sleeping pills. They weren't there. I turned on the light, rummaged through every shelf. Nothing. They were gone. This wasn't paranoia. Something was happening. Something real. In a panic, I ran to the basement. I rarely went down there. It was too heavy, too full of memory, because that's where they were. The victims. Yes, victims. Plural. It had started with Emily, but it didn't stop there. I couldn't live knowing her lover was still out there. The man who took her away from me. So I invited him over. He accepted a drink. We talked. I smiled. The drink was laced. He was dead within the hour. Lauren came next. Adam's wife. She didn't just vanish, I killed her. She found out what I'd done to Emily and stormed over to confront me. Panicked. I used the heavy book from my room, one blow to the head. She dropped like a stone. And Emily was the first. I didn't want her to suffer. I loved her. I didn't want to scare her. That's why I stabbed her in the back. The way she had figuratively stabbed me by cheating. I used a knife from the rack. She collapsed, silent and still. And now the knife was in my hands again. But I didn't remember picking it up. I blinked. I was in the basement. But how did I get there? I didn't recall walking down. My vision blurred. In my other hand, the sleeping pills. I tried to lift the bottle, but my limbs wobbled. My body felt distant. Blood rushed in my ears. I could barely stay upright. Then I felt something else, solid, heavy. A book. I was holding the book again. The one I used on Lauren. That made no sense. I dropped it. My legs gave out. I collapsed onto the cold floor, just like they had. Just like each of them. My vision flickered. And then, just before everything went dark, I saw something. A face. Her face. Emily. My Emily.